Hi, I'm Ben Richardson, and you're listening to the Karate Podcast, where we talk about karate, the competitive sport of kumite, and the warrior's journey. Brought to you in association with Kumite Coach, the world's first progressive online high-definition coaching platform, created by coaches and fighters for coaches, fighters, and students of karate. Join kumitecoach.com today and take your karate to the next level. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Karate Podcast. I am really excited today to have with me Eoghan Chelmiah. Eoghan, as you will know, is the current golden belt holder at Bantam Weight in Karate Combat, our premier sports league for full contact karate. Eoghan is also a European and world champion in karate in the WKC, the IKU, and the WKF. He's been an Irish amateur boxing champion, an Irish ITF Taekwondo champion. He's also represented Ireland at the European and World Championships in amateur MMA. He's currently working on completing a PhD in engineering. And Eoghan also became the first ever bantamweight champion in Karate Combat. And as I mentioned, is the current golden belt holder. So it's a real privilege and honor to have you on the show today. Eoghan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much, Ben. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for the invite.
Yeah, totally awesome to have you on. I'm really chuffed Callum could put us in touch. And I've been watching your fights over the past few days just to catch up. And man, that's a tough game you're in there. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and thanks for having me on. Yeah, shout out as well to Callum, Rob for connecting us.
So Eoghan, if we could just start with your background. I did read on your bio you had an interesting introduction to the world in terms of your sort of companion in the hospital. So could you start us at the beginning and how you got into martial arts?
So in my introduction to martial arts was at the age of 4. My parents enrolled me into a karate school. Yeah, so I kind of picked it up from there. I did an abundance of other sports as well. I did athletics, I did swimming, football, even did dancing. They kind of put me into everything and just kind of gave me the opportunity to see what sparked my interest. And yeah, ever since starting karate, that's kind of been the main sport I've stuck with. On my martial art career, I've had the opportunity to study and practice in many other disciplines as well, such as taekwondo, kickboxing, boxing, MMA. But yeah, karate has always been the primary focus, and it's always been my main pastime and my main interest.
Yeah, and you had an interesting, I guess I don't know how you say it, a companion in the hospital when you were there and your dad was talking to a very famous boxer. Do you want to just run us through that coincidence?
Yeah, so I was actually born at the same time, same day, same hospital as Conor Benn, professional boxer. So yeah, I guess yeah, my father he had the opportunity to meet Nigel Benn in the hospital.
Almost destined to be a fighter from day one, it seems.
Yeah, it appears that way.
So as you got into your karate, was it a sports-based karate initially, or was it a traditional base you came from?
Yeah, so it was a Waterloo karate was the original style I began with, and that's the one I stuck with throughout my career. And yeah, we competed in sports karate primarily. We have a couple of traditional karate tournaments as well. I was lucky enough to be in a federation that encouraged us to test ourselves in just any types of competitions that we could.
Right.
So they really encouraged us to participate in both semi-contact, points-based, even some kickboxing tournaments as well. And we were encouraged as well to pick up other martial arts to kind of supplement and improve certain aspects such as boxing and kickboxing. We were encouraged to actually try out the other martial arts and see if we can bring any aspects of them into our competition karate.
Fantastic. And what was it about competing and I guess fighting in competition that drew you?
It's just I guess, just the whole process of picking a target date, training for it, and then on the day being able to like reap the rewards of all the training that you put in. I guess even from years ago in competition, I always like that whole process of preparing for a tournament and then getting the medals after. And then
Yeah.
of course, the more I kind of competed, the better I got, of course. And yeah, I guess by age 8, I was competing in at world championship level, and from there, kind of just an avalanche like effect. I just kept on competing, and every week, at one stage in my career, I was competing in just different tournaments, different rule sets, anything I could. My parents were very supportive. They'd bring me up and down the country and even international. I was week in, week out competing both nationally and internationally.
Fantastic. And at what stage did you mentioned your association was very open and encouraging of cross training. Is that what led you towards mixed martial arts at that point?
Yeah, so when I was around 16 years of age, I kind of I knew by then full contact was more up my alley. Just my style of fighting, I preferred a little bit more contact than what's allowed in the semi-contact and points range of karate. So in terms of full contact at that stage, the only real options are boxing, kickboxing, or MMA. Especially
Yeah,
back then, that was kind of the only options we had. So of course I stepped into all three of them. I have K1 fights under my belt. I have boxing titles, and yeah, I tried my best at an MMA career as well. That's where I was in my career until the opportunity to compete in karate combat arose, and I took that in a heartbeat because it fulfilled my interest of both competing full contact, and then I was still able to fight under the domain of karate, which was my true passion.
yeah, fantastic. I'd be interested to know what elements you feel training in each style of martial arts, so the MMA, the boxing, karate. What do you feel like was the strength of each one, and what do you feel it's given you as a fighter?
I think a really important quality to have as a fighter is just the ability to adapt. And I think if you're jumping in and out of styles, especially styles that are very, very strict and traditional, like boxing, for example, which limits you to only your hands, and even at that, only certain hand techniques,
Hmm.
the ability to adapt and the control it takes to only use those particular weapons for a given fight, especially if it's a very, very tough opponent. I
Yeah.
think that's very important for a competition because there, no matter how good you are, there's always going to be someone out there a little bit better, and it's just going to come down to who can adapt better, who can actually perform better on that given day.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think the major benefit of jumping in and competing in all the different disciplines is you'll very very quickly figure out the small the kind of the mindset that you need to win competitions and not just be a good fighter, but actually beat your opponents.
Yeah. And in terms of your, I guess how it feels in terms of an energy, what am I trying to say? The energy systems you use and the level of fitness you need. Like boxing is obviously known as something that has a really high requirement in terms of your cardio. I think people who fight at a high level in karate experience a similar thing, but it'll be sports very specific. How did you adapt to the training requirements of each sport?
Yes, so that's always a thing that's very tough to balance, the tapering your training for given competitions. And yeah, for me that's just come down to which competitions take priority. So for example, if I have a big world championships coming up,
Yeah,
that's not going to stop me from competing in any exhibition fights coming up in boxing, or not going to stop me from taking a kickboxing fight next week. But at the same time, preparation wise, I'm going to prioritize improving on my strength and conditioning for that karate tournament. So I
yeah,
think it is just a case of prioritizing which events in particular are most important to you in your career, but not letting that overshadow any other opportunities that could come up.
yeah, yeah. I think that strength and conditioning obviously has become something more and more prevalent as I guess as professional fight sports have grown and flourished outside of purely boxing. What advice would you have to people coming up in the sports karate or MMA or those aiming for karate combat in terms of how they approach their overall training and incorporating that strength and conditioning element?
So for me, what I find works the best is just training every day. Just find a way to implement some kind of strength conditioning every day, whether that's just a jog or a walk or something to keep active every day. If you're into the routine of doing it every day, you'll naturally pick it up when it comes to the tournaments.
Yeah,
Whereas if you're relying on camps and you're relying on having the perfect preparation for your tournaments, very, very quickly you're gonna find different struggles, different life comes up in the way, different things happen. I definitely prioritize just implementing it into your everyday lifestyle. Don't
mm,
try and make a big event of it. Just make the training into just incorporate the training into your everyday lifestyle. So that means doing some push-ups while you're doing your homework. After every page you're reading a book, drop down some sit-ups. Even just after your dinner, just go for a walk, go for a run, and clear your mind. It's the small things that you do every day that will pay off the most in the fight.
yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And something I'm also interested in, because you are a very young person, you're just 26, you've already achieved a huge amount. And it's, you are studying to finish your PhD, so that's a really high level of academia. So how did you manage to balance your academic work alongside developing yourself as a competitive fighter?
Yeah, so throughout both my academic, I guess there is similarities in both, but yeah, they're quite contrasting in a way as well. I guess the preparation for both is similar in a way in terms of if you have exams coming up or you have assignments coming up, you have to set aside time to train or to study for them. So I kind of there was some similarities in the whole process for both in sporting and academic.
Hmm.
But in terms of balancing both, I guess I just had a really I was very fortunate to have a very supportive network with my parents supported me a lot.
Yeah.
I achieved scholarships with the university I was with for my karate and my boxing. So that really helped me as well. But in terms of getting a balance, it is just setting the targets and just once you have your targets set, it is just a case of incorporating some kind of process, whatever works for you. I mean, whether it's putting in hours of work or setting intervals of work, just the whole process of setting a target and setting up little subtasks that let you work towards and monitor your progress and your performance along the way.
Right. And I suppose, to me, that appears like you have to have quite a high level of self-discipline to be able to, to do that and to stick to that kind of target setting and regime. Do you feel you're a very disciplined person?
Yeah, I do feel probably my discipline is probably one of the qualities I have that that's brought me a lot in my career. I'm not exactly the most genetically gifted in any sense for fighting. I'm not the smartest guy out there. I do think just I'm disciplined enough to put in a little bit every day, and yeah, I think that's probably the key to my success so far. Anyway,
Mm. And I'm probably jumping ahead in the interview a bit here, but as we're on talking about academia, um, what would the preference be to go into engineering or to become a full-time professional fighter?
yeah, as a career, and engineering is definitely my career choice. I don't see fighting and martial arts as a job for me. It is just purely interest. I'm in there competing just it is just as an interest, and it is just because I feel like I'm physically capable of beating a lot of the fighters out there.
Yeah,
I don't see it as a job, and I don't really want to rely on it either as a
sure.
career because full contact fighting, especially, it is quite a dangerous sport. I mean, one or two bad injuries, and that could be my career over. So I'd like to I'd like a long career in engineering, and I think that's what I'd stick with.
Awesome. Awesome. That's cool to hear. So let's go back into the journey. You mentioned your parents have been a huge support for you. Who have been the most influential coaches thus far in your career?
So actually, my mother is my coach. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'd have to say my mother. Yeah, she coaches me, and she acts as my coach even in karate combat. You'll see her in my corner there in between the rounds. Yeah, no, she acts as my coach and my manager, and yeah, she kind of takes all those responsibilities on, which
Wow.
is quite tough working with someone like me. That I'm quite demanding. So yeah, she
Yeah.
definitely has a lot of patience.
Sure, they
working
had to
with.
handle you being your mum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at the same time, I know she has my best interest at heart. So
Yeah,
yeah, I can really rely on her, and yeah, it kind of puts me at ease. Then when I go away to these events, she can look after all the paperwork, all the kind of all those obligations that are required, and I'm able to just focus on the fight, and all the distractions are kind of out of the way.
yeah. And does she have a background in martial arts herself?
Yep, she has a black belt in karate.
Oh, nice. So
Yeah,
it's a
she's my
bit
sensei.
of a family affair. Awesome stuff. Um, so was it during your sports karate that you saw MMA and just thought, yeah, I fancy giving that a go? And would you have transitioned to, do you feel you tr would have transitioned to karate combat as successfully if you hadn't done MMA previously?
So yeah, for me at the time when I was 16, 17, yeah, MMA was an up and coming sport. We had the likes of Conor McGregor, these kind of icons for Irish MMA,
Mm.
and they were kind of paving the way and leading the way with in terms of UFC, Cage Warriors, and Bellator. These kind of promotions, they were all very topical at the time. Yeah, I think competing in MMA, yeah, it definitely has benefited me and my career. I had the opportunity to represent Ireland at the Amateur World Championships, the IMAF European and World Championships in Bahrain and Rome. Yeah, being at tournaments like this when you're around hundreds of other fighters from all over the world, top level MMA athletes, it definitely boosted my confidence, and it definitely allowed me to give me a good outlook on how the rest of the world, their preparation, their training is not that much different than what we have. So a lot of the time I find that we tend to put those other athletes when we see them abroad online, we see them on YouTube and on Instagram, we tend to put them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Whereas I think going to those kind of tournaments, especially amateur stages where everyone is mingling, you're seeing everyone, you're seeing everybody's warm ups, you're seeing everybody's competition, you're seeing you firsthand, you're seeing everything. That really opened my eye to see that, yeah, what they're doing isn't too much different, and it's not unachievable. That all of them are beatable. And I think that's just an attitude I'd be able to carry with me into karate combat. Even though some of them may have more experience and some of them may have better preparation, better facilities, better coaches, whatever,
Mm.
none of them there are unbeatable.
Yeah. That's great, great attitude to have. And what was it like that very first time you stepped into the karate combat arena? How did that
Yes,
feel?
so for my first fight, a qualifier, I had a French guy. But yeah, I mean, the whole preparation for that, it was during the height of the pandemic. So there was lockdowns everywhere. I mean, it was very tough to even get to the venue
Yeah.
to do my qualifying fight. And because it was a qualifier fight, I didn't actually know that it would be aired or if it was like a full fight, or is it a bit like in the
Mm.
Ultimate Fighter where you just do one round as a trial.
Sure.
So preparation wise, I was just running every day and hitting a bag. I mean, there was nothing tapered for karate combat. I was training on my own. There was no gyms open, nothing. I was just training on my own in my own home, just going for runs and hitting punching the bag and doing some pad work. And then I guess just training kind of paid off. I got in there, treated it like any other fight, gave it my all, and I managed to secure the victory. It kind of just we've kind of just improved things since then. Of course, I mean,
Mm.
my training has definitely got a lot tougher. I've tapered my style a lot more to the karate combat rules. And yeah, I guess in terms of an overall approach, yeah, nothing much has changed.
Awesome. And what was it like that experience when you won the Bantam Weight title and the golden belt? How did that unfold for you?
Yeah, it was surprising at the time because I mean even the title opportunity was surprising because I only had two fights in the promotion. I felt like it was early days for myself, but I was very keen and very happy to take the opportunity to fight for the belt and contest for it. And then winning it, of course, was just, yeah, surreal
Yeah,
to be crowned as the world champion of full contact karate, especially being the first bantamweight champion. Yeah, it was a very surreal and very proud moment.
that's fantastic. And we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but obviously recently you had a match against Jesus Lopez, I think it was.
Yeah,
And that was I watched that match. It was a really tough fight. And then there was an incorrect decision at the end where you essentially were pronounced the loser of the match, Jesus the winner, and then that was corrected shortly after. But first of all, what was it like to fight an opponent like Jesus? That seemed like one of your toughest matches to date by far. And then how did you deal with that emotion, like the flip of that emotion between loss and win?
absolutely. It was a very, very tough fight. I mean, it was a real contrast in styles. And yeah, it was a very tricky challenge to try and overcome. He's a very strong guy. He's a very awkward style for me to deal with. And yeah, we when it was announced that I'd lost, yeah, of course it was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I knew it was a close fight. I knew if I don't knock them out, there's always a case the judges can go the other way. I mean,
Mm.
the only way to really secure the fight is to knock out the opponent.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was heartbreaking. I mean, we went backstage, and of course my team consoled me, but we were immediately planning, saying, "Oh, look, what can we do better for next? Like, how quickly can we turn this around? How quickly can we get back in there? How can we, improve for next time that it doesn't go to judges' decisions?" And then I guess we were pretty quickly told then, maybe 15 minutes after that, yeah, the decision had been called incorrectly. Two of the judges had scored me the winner. So immediately as well, they offered me the chance to have a rematch, and of course, I said yes to that. That's exactly what I wanted.
yeah,
I mean, any fight that's like that goes the full distance over 5 rounds with no knockout, there is no clear winner as such. I mean,
mm.
it goes to the judges scoring, and you have to go with who the judges go with. Of course, I think I won. He probably thinks he won. We're
Yeah,
never going to agree on that, so that's why we're doing it again. And hopefully this time we get a much, much more decisive winner.
yeah. And so a couple of questions off that. One is what, if anything, you're going to change for your camp, having already faced Lopez? So the elements you're going to add into your game. And secondly, obviously, Karate Combat's got a high social media profile, so I presume you get fairly inundated with comments and various things. How do you deal with that side of things as well?
Right, so yeah, for your first question, in terms of preparations for the rematch that we're currently preparing for, we've just really it's just kind of just lit a fire on me to it's really motivated me to improve my just how would you say here I need to be more patient in my fighting, I think.
Mhm.
I need to kind of hide my senses of urgency. So yeah, I've just been training to be a little bit more patient. I mean, strength conditioning wise, yeah, we're constantly improving. We're constantly hitting new goals and hitting new targets, hitting new PBs on everything. So that's a given. With the strength conditioning is constantly improving. But in terms of my fighting style, yeah, it's just practicing being a little bit more composed, a little bit more patient. Things that I should be working on anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has just really motivated me, and yeah, it's been a
And
tough training so far.
do you bring in people to help you with certain aspects? Like Lopez seemed to like to clinch a lot, throw, drop shin kicks to the calf, things like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, you see, it's pros and cons of bringing in sparring partners to perform like this because for the rules of karate combat, we are strictly told there's no striking in the clinch, so we can only assume that these techniques won't be scored. And I
Right.
think that's one factor that maybe people don't seem to, they might not know that there is no striking permitted in the clinch. So
Yeah.
and if you land these, they won't be scored. Yeah, bring in sparring partners. I'm always open. I'll walk into any gym in the country. Really, I'm always like willing to step in and try sparring new people, new different styles. Especially, it's always a fun challenge. But I
Yeah.
find that kind of stuff more supplementary. It's more out of interest and that kind of stuff. In terms of my own preparations, I just find for me over the years, I've kind of developed a system where I just find I perform best when I've just been in isolation for a little while.
Right.
Yeah, I know in terms of like fighters would argue saying that you need your sparring and that kind of stuff for your timing and your that and just being composed and your stamina. But I just find if I've been isolated for a little while, I'm a little bit more chaotic and I just tend to fight a little bit better. So
Right.
I prioritize really my strength and conditioning and my technique. Technique is the biggest thing for me. I'll do reps on reps of all the techniques that I think will be useful in the fight for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I go in there just maxed out my strength and conditioning, maxed out my technique.
Yeah, I thought your movement was very good against Lopez, and you certainly moved. You had that karate style of agility in the stance and the feet, cutting angles. As he would kind of seem to be like more of a stalker coming down to shut the distance.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping for the rematch. I already know. Just I'm going to put on a much better performance. I can only improve from there. I mean that was a baseline. Oh, over the years, I've had the chance to have many rematches against previous opponents. I think this is my fifth full contact rematch. Every time I've done a rematch, I've come out better, faster, stronger in the second time around. So
Yeah,
I have no doubt for this time the training I'm putting in will pay off.
I'm fantastic. Look forward to seeing that. Absolutely. And so going back to the second part of this question, how is the social media side of being a public figure in combat sports?
Yeah, it's definitely I've definitely seen a bit of a change in terms of my social media following. And yeah, I mean, I try not to let it consume me too much in terms of my time. I spend I'm not the most active social
Yes,
media influencer out there. I think majority of what I post is just what I see. Is I keep it as authentic as possible, and it's all just my training or my general interests in engineering that I tend to post.
right.
Yeah, I mean the reaction both locally and on my social media, it's all been positive. I mean, I receive nothing but nice messages, and yeah, I'm very, very grateful for that.
That's really cool. Good to hear. Do you feel any sense of as the sense of pressure increased as you've become a more high profile fighter?
Yeah, I guess the stakes are a little bit higher, but at the same time, I feel like I'm here because I want to be here.
Yeah,
And at the same time, yeah, all of these fight, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I could beat all these fighters. Like it's there's no one on the roster that I don't think on any given day I can't beat. And until a day comes where I'm looking at the roster and I'm thinking, oh, there's no way, that's the day I'll step back from it. At the moment, there's no one there that I don't see myself beating at any given day. I'm not saying I'm unbeatable. I mean, it's the same for me. I,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very much beatable, but for me, I'm here because I really want to be. I really enjoy that challenge. I really, really want to get in there and fight some of these people and prove myself against them.
That's a fantastic mindset to have. So is it recently? I'm not sure, but now we've got George St. Pierre, Basra, and they're in there commentating. Have you met any of those guys, and how do you feel? I mean, that that it's obviously drawing a crowd with high profile people like that coming in. How's that been?
Yeah, I've actually got the opportunity to train with Bas Rutten and Leo Machida and Stephen Thompson.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I've had the opportunity for Bas Rutten to hold the pads for me. I mean, we did 2.5 hours
Wow.
but yeah, before my last fight, I think it was like 3 or 4 days before my last fight, we did 2.5 hours of a training session with Bas Rutten and Ian Gary, the UFC fighter from Ireland.
Yeah.
That was very surreal. I mean, I've done a short training session with Leo Machida and with
Oh,
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as well. And yeah, I mean, it's fantastic to be able to have the opportunity to meet those guys. And what you see is what you get there. They couldn't be nicer. They're very, very supportive. They're very, very encouraging and motivating individuals. It's not just for cameras. They are like that in real life. I mean, even when there's no cameras rolling, they're super supportive and nice and constantly giving you advice.
that's fantastic. I mean, they're amazing fighters, and it's great to see
Absolutely.
people in MMA using karate to, great effect. Wonderboy is one of my favorite fighters, and
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, no, the guy is a brilliant role model for anybody out there.
yeah,
Brilliant fighter.
yeah, that's fantastic. Great stuff. So what are your plans moving forward for 2023? Do you see a long, are you going to stay in karate combat just until it feels like you've had enough, or do you have any career? I know you said your career lies within engineering. What's the future hold in the short term for you?
In short term, so for 2023, I'd like to get maybe 3 fights this year. I mean, I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I mean, I'll stay fighting as long as there's good opportunities. I mean, and good opponents and stuff like that that present themselves. I mean, it's at the moment, I have my hands full at the moment. I have Jesus Lopez from Peru. That's my next up and coming fight. I'm sure after that there'll be more names popping up for me to beat. And yeah, I mean, short term, I just keep knocking down whoever's in front of me.
Yeah. Is there anyone out there, not necessarily within karate combat, that you think, "Oh, I'd like to get in a ring with that guy and just have a
Yeah,
play"?
there's three names actually I could think of that of martial artists out there that I'd love to fight someday in a cross promotional kind of match. And one would be Rod Tang from One Championship. I mean,
Yeah,
with all respect, yeah, he's an icon, but I would love to get in there and mix it with him. I think it would be a spectacular fight. And the
nice.
other two are Japanese kickboxers, Tenshin Nasugawa and Takeru Sagawa. Same again, two brilliant fighters, and I just think our styles would make a really entertaining fight.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, hopefully we'll get to see that at some point.
Yeah, exactly. If there was a cross promotion of some sort, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, that would be great to watch. Um, Owen, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. I wish you every success for 2023, both in the ring and in your academia. I'm
Yep.
sure it will be a success for you. So thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks very much for having me. And yeah, really, I'm very, very happy to be here.
Pleasure. Thank you. This